Happy Wellness Wednesday, everybody. My name is Becca Briley, Sweetheart Success Coach. Take two. We're live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Thank you for joining us today. It's my honor and privilege as a success coach here at Southwest Institute of Healing Arts to honor, witness, celebrate, and interview some of our amazing Sweetheart graduates. And today I have one of our graduates. He took the Integrative Healing Arts Practitioner Diploma, IHAP for short, on campus, and is here to just share his story, what brought him to this path as a shamanic healer and psychic medium. So I have today Judson Wood, who I'll add to the stream. Hi, Judd. How are you?
Hi, Becca. How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's great to see you again.
Round two.
You're so wonderful. Well, I just wanted to, invite you, and I was very excited to bring you on camera because number one, I've worked with you a little bit here and there. And what I've heard, the space that you hold and the lives that you've transformed for men specifically in circles is absolutely incredible, transformative for them. And, I've heard that you're gifted at teaching the balance of the masculine and feminine. Is that true?
It's true by experience.
Definitely.
Definitely. And it's something that I'm constantly working through, to develop, a meaning behind it, because we hear and receive all this knowledge, but it's really within the heart that really conveys to me, what do I need to understand about this? And how do I provide support for others through this? Women too. I work with a lot of women. That's the majority of my client base, to be honest.
Really?
And men I hold space for, but men lately have been afraid of this work, the depth of it, or the type of work that I give, and, that's a rabbit hole in itself that we could talk about, this divine masculine and masculine energy, but, I digress.
Yeah, let's save that for the end because that's some really good stuff. And, for all of you watching live, for all of you who will rewatch this, bring your curiosities and questions to the table. Don't be afraid to explore something and know that you're not alone in whatever feelings you have, curiosities, maybe some fear, uncertainty, doubt, hope, all the feels. So, Judd, I just want you to I'm going to take us back, walk us through, when you first felt called to this line of work, to being of service, and, what that looked and felt like for you.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of things that brought me to this moment. And I went to Sweetheart starting in 2018. But before that, I was a chef. I worked as a chef, and I worked all over the country in New York and Boston. I was classically trained. And, throughout that whole period, I was kind of fighting myself. I was very successful, and I was barely touching my success in the culinary industry. And it got to the point where I had to walk away from it. I was kind of battling and struggling with addiction, alcohol use, running from who I really was, running from all my demons, all my wounds, all my shadow side, And so I chose to walk away. It was actually my second time that I walked away from it because I went to rehab, and none of it fit. And so I moved to Colorado just to find some grounding again in nature and be with family. And I had my first experience with an energy practitioner. She was a Sweetheart graduate, and she was doing things like emotion code and body code and her own kind of development of what she'd been taught. And at first, I didn't really know what was going on. It was very different than the traditional stuff that I've used, Western medicine. But after a period of time, I started to feel completely transformed. And I started to feel parts of me that were just asleep and dormant since as long as I can remember, since I was a child. I shut off a lot of these gifts. And, she brought a lot of tools, and those tools really helped me to learn and understand what energy was and how I could maybe transition into a new direction. And so, I think my main focus was, how can I help people in the culinary industry? That was my driving force. How can I help people spiritually through their addiction in the culinary world? And so that's what brought me to Sweha, and I came with this idea of I'm going to share and tell everybody how it is. And I was really wrong. And I was humbled many times. But throughout that process, I learned and I opened up, took yoga teacher training, took all these different experiences to help me understand how to open up, how to become or develop my unique spirituality. And how do I even help and hold space for someone who's going through similar things as me, going through trauma? What does that mean? What is space holding? And it's like throughout this entire period since 2017, I have developed into this shamanic practitioner, and really that just means that I have a lot of vibrational supports. I have one foot in the spirit world and the upper world as well. And I work with a lot of energy and I get all of that support and I say, how can I best support this person that I'm with? And kind of take it from there, listening to the heart, listening to my intuition.
That's powerful. And I'm going to ask the question that I think many viewers maybe be wondering. What were some of the tools that were used, to help you kind of move through the addiction and kind of come into this new space of being?
Well, I think the hardest part for me through addiction was sitting with myself, sitting with the discomfort and the intensity of my emotions, because, I'm an empath, very empathic, and I'm highly aware, though I didn't know all the things that I was feeling until more recently, and as I was going through this self-discovery, through Sweha, I learned the coaching. I went through the whole coaching program, the intuitive guidance program. And one of the most actual powerful things that I learned was through yoga teacher training, just to sit and be. And it helped me to kind of embody who I was at that time and not judge myself. And through that experience, my heart started to work a little bit differently. My heart started to open, just standing with myself and just shaking in those poses and just being allowed my expression to free itself from all those binds, all those bounds, all those emotions that kind of locked me in and locked me within. And now, I do things very differently than most, because I kind of honor what my uniqueness is. And I think it's important to develop your own style and your uniqueness in this work, because we each have a story. We each come from very different backgrounds, but there's some similarities in our backgrounds. We've all had some sort of discomforts and some dysfunction, right? But, I don't necessarily have one niche. I've kind of opened up to what spirit has brought me and trusted that that was the right for me. And I think the biggest thing that I help others with is, how do we open up to our spirit? How do we talk to our soul? And how can I support you in that? And, throughout all these tools and all this time that I've been doing this for over almost fully 3 years in full-time practice, I've taken these tools and I've kind of pushed them to the side. I said, okay, this is what I've learned. And that's great. That's really important to have a foundation. But now God said, Spirit said, I want you to use these tools just as a thought, so I can allow more abundance in. So you have this foundation, yes, but it's not enough. Now the tools become something else, something different. So for example, I learned the emotion code right off the bat because that's what really spoke to me initially. And the body code, I love that system. And at one point, it just felt like it wasn't working the same way. And I sat with it. And Spirit said, God said, I was like, oh God, what do I do? Something doesn't feel right. And God said, just listen. Let's take the culmination of what you know and flip it, because your heart can release more than just one thing at a time. Let's bundle everything together and move it. We don't have to muscle test anymore. We don't have to do all the little fancy things, because when your heart is open in a space and you're holding space for someone else, so much more can happen. And I think that we forget that, at least that's what I've seen. We're so kind of, we have our blinders on and we're so focused on using these beautiful tools that are amazing. But spirit says to me all the time that we can use these tools for so much more. And I want to show you what to do now. Just listen,
This is so profound, and what's just like screaming in my head, not scary, but just like, wow, it's the surrender with the humility. Are we able to sit in our stuff and look at, the parts of ourselves that still need tending to, and probably always will, right? For those who have like trauma in their history, it's being able to sit and look at our behaviors, knowing where they come from, not knowing that not thinking they define us, right? Not letting that define us, not letting trauma define us, but sitting in that reality and choosing how we want to show up in the world, right?
Yeah.
So is that what you're saying? Like, that's your surrender practice, and that's how you kind of flow, you connect with your clients, and you're always guided.
Well, let me be clear. Every day is very different now, especially all the stuff that the world is going through too. I feel that very deeply. I'm sure you do too. And sometimes there's so much going on, it feels like chaos. But there's chaos going on in here too, right? Because this is a kind of like, this is connecting to that. So yes, I experience all those things. I do a lot of deep work. I've been through a lot. It's my calling to work through all those layers, and unturn all of those rocks and look at all those shadows. Though I don't always do it alone. You know what I mean? I have to have support, and I've tried all these different types of modalities. Everything brings me to a different piece of understanding. The more, long time ago, I chose this life was the life that I was going to look at everything. That's a lot. Because months ago, even a year ago, I was sitting in meditation, and there were all my past lives started to come through. Visions, working with the Akashic. And since then, I've kind of developed that experience to help others. I love past life and working with the Akashic. And it's so deep. It goes so deep, and I think that past life support has helped me learn why my experience is the way it is now, in a sense, give me more understanding, but it also brought pieces of me back into the moment, those that are kind of left in the past. And, I did my own soul retrieval work there, but I hope I answered your question.
You did. I guess here's my other question. How are you able to hold yourself accountable, right, in your own knowing of who you are and knowing to choose different now? How do you hold yourself accountable? You said you have people that you work with to do that work. Do you ever find yourself teetering back? And if you do, how do you realign back on,
I'll be honest, some days I feel very, very triggered, and I feel like I can't do it. And some days that's just the experience that's in my mind, right? That's just the busyness of the mind, the emotions that are coming up. And that can feel very like I'm disconnected to who I am. And there are times, I'll share this between us, where I'm in session and I'm panicked and I don't know how I'm going to do this. But then I just breathe. And then I breathe more. And then I say, hey, let's breathe together and let's open up this space, because I don't have to do it. Judd doesn't have to do it. But yes, there's a lot of times where shame comes up, my depression, or I'm experiencing a different part of healing from a higher perspective. Those memories will come in and show you, hey, you're processing this, so let's take a look. Or maybe it's just on its way out, and it's not always fun to see these aspects of you. But I think that this process of just being okay with where I am and giving myself some grace. I was going to drop an F-bomb here, but I didn't. Giving myself a little bit of grace and gratitude, because as long as I show up, I'm full.
Mm.
You know, I don't have to do so much. I just have to welcome spirit, welcome source through, but yes, I still experience a lot of stuff, and there are times where that intensity of the addiction comes up. That
Mm.
was my coping mechanism for 14 years. It's a long time.
Yeah.
You
Thank
know?
you for naming that, because I think it's really important, for anyone who's considering this work, or for those of you who've done it forever. It's like, we don't expect you, healers, practitioners, to be perfect, to hold that space and not feel the feelings, to not have your own work to do. So I see a lot of people might fall off the success path because they allow the doubt to take over. So Judd, you said it's these moments that you experience it, and you know that it's a temporary experience, and here's what you do with it. So you use breath work, you use co-regulation, you use coming back, staying back into the body, right? Because avoidance can be our favorite thing to do. Right?
Yeah.
We have this new program, and I love that you took the YTT at Sweha. I did too. We have the integrative yoga therapy now,
Mm.
which looks so cool for any of you interested in getting into this work. But it's really being able to still experience those emotions and still be able to hold that sacred space. How long do you think it's taken you to really feel confident in that space? And is that something you still strive towards, Judd?
Feel confident in supporting others or being with what's going on with me.
Let's say both. Let's go both.
Okay. Well, in practice, the first, I don't know, 7 months, it was just trying things out, learning, trying to build a client base. It's not always easy, but unfortunately, it came very quickly for me. Um, because I learned and I worked through my heart constantly. That was important. And I knew a lot of people from Sweha, and so I would test everybody out and try to work with them. So
Yeah.
that really helped. But I think that when I'm going through a moment in my own life, I process quite a lot.
Mhm.
And I got into a space where I was kind of overdoing it, over processing, over giving myself just support and work. And I realized I need to integrate here.
Mm.
I need to take some time away and really just be in the flow and have some joy, because happiness and joy and laughter is all part of the healing journey too, not
Mm.
just the deep shadow stuff. You have to balance both sides, and I was caught in the past life kind of realm for a while, and it got
Mm.
deep and it got really hard and it was emotional.
Yeah.
But, for me now, I kind of schedule certain things a month and know intuitively when I'm going to need some more support, because I kind of tap into that,
Mm-hmm.
knowing when I need to take a break, and all these things. But, one thing, I don't get enough nature. And I think that's part of the healing for me.
Mm-hmm.
I've been so focused on my one-on-one work over the last few years that sometimes I felt just kind of like I had to be here, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it is a learning process. And when that discomfort comes through, I'll breathe, I'll tap, I'll do whatever I'm feeling. But the best thing that I do is journal,
Mm.
to kind of free up the emotions and the monkey mind, just the energy and the brain, so I can be more clear to receive.
I love it. Breathing, tapping, journaling, self-awareness, nature time. It feels good just speaking those words, So everyone has their own, I guess, self-nurturing techniques, self-soothing techniques. And if you don't have any, you could reach out to Judd. You could have a session. We have many amazing graduates. We even started guidance on call, where we started it in COVID, because in lockdown, it's like, what do I do? And we wanted to be able to, have our graduates be able to reach practitioners. So I want to spotlight your website, Judd, because it's like so pretty and it's so you. So how did you come up with this branding?
Well, I had some help. I'm not really good at all the design stuff. That's not my gift.
Yeah.
My partner, Shonda Bauer, helped me create it. She's an artist and photographer too. She's a Sweetheart grad.
Cool.
She does hypnotherapy and other things. So she helped me develop it. It's my second web page. My first one was getting a little bit. There it is. And
Beautiful.
yeah, it definitely speaks to where I'm at now, not where I began. And that's
Mm,
important, to kind of, where am I today?
it's so you. Love your story here. This one too. This is powerful.
That was a land ceremony that I did in called Turquoise Valley outside of Apache Junction. Beautiful piece of land, very spiritual. I was blessed to be able to heal the area.
Mm, yeah, that's magnificent. Love that. Testimonials and everything. Awesome. Well, I'll put the link here for people to reach out, but you're a prime example of a practitioner, of what it takes to really do the work, because if we think we're going to be able to hold healing space for others, guess what we're going to be called to do first and foremost and always is our own work. So, being in alignment is a big part of this work. Is when we're out of alignment, we will know, God will show, and we'll be realigned for sure. Are there any points in your path, Judd, where you feel like you completely got out of alignment with your practice? I know that's hard and I know that's really deep.
No, it's not hard because I know.
Okay. Okay, you're able to sit with that.
Yeah,
Okay.
right away. I mean, I'll say my third year, this last year for my practice, was the most challenging.
Mm,
I had to move and it was a lot more expensive, because everything went up and I
mm,
felt all this pressure, and practice was going quickly. I moved and started working right away, but I have been in so much process this third year of my practice
mm,
that it has been really a challenge to just find space for myself, find space for my relationship, and then find space for my social life. And then, just be in a space of flow at the same time. It has been this word that keeps coming through, chaos.
yeah. Yeah.
And it's been like this storm that's been brewing for so long, and I'm in it. I'm in the middle of it, and I'm sitting with it some days, and some days I have to step out of it and do
Mm,
other work. But it has been a challenge, and I've had some times this past year where I felt like I was fighting it. How
mm,
am I going to do this? How am I going to bring in more people? And I learned through that experience that God always has me.
mm,
Spirit always is with me at all times. And I forgot for a moment, right? And it
mm,
was like, hello, you need to be reminded here to trust and to let the F go.
mm.
Because
Surrender.
exactly. And when I did that, it all just flowed in. And that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of where I am now. I'm working through teaching a lot more, doing workshops more, and talking about the Akashic field and karma and the Aquarian period, right? Where we're tapping into now. And the big word that comes up is heart coherence. How
Mm,
do I open up the space within me to align with a lot more? Connecting with spirit, connecting with souls, connecting with those that I support
mm,
to support my work as well, And when I listen to my heart, it always guides me in the right direction. It took me a minute to get to here, but now when I have a lull in a week, I'm okay with it.
mm.
Next week I might be extremely slammed,
Right.
or spirit might say, you need to take some time away and get out of town, just listen. I
Mm,
think it has been this rewiring of a lot of fear and uncertainty, and that goes through my past too.
mm-hmm.
Just helping me to try to understand that there is more here when I can just sit and be, I'll be directed and guided, and I won't have to worry as much. Though, I know there's times where when we're starting our practice and we're trying to get more clients, that sounds not very high vibrational, but it's this process that we go through where we need to pay for our responsibilities and do all these things. So for me, it was a process of just letting God through, not just more, but just like not holding back with anything, letting him speak, letting my heart just work through something and guide me, and it all just figures itself out. And it did take me a while to get to this place. A while, 4 or 5 years.
Amen. Me too. It's a journey, isn't it? And it's true. When you can just release it and surrender it to God, to spirit, to universe, to source, whatever you call it, you're so free. It's that free, full heart experience where you go, wow, like this is life. This is happiness. This is joy. This is freedom. It just kind of wipes the slate clean, right?
Yeah.
Temporarily, because I feel it. You got to keep leaning into that. You got to do it over and over and over and have a practice. Practitioners have a practice, and we have practices for a reason. And the more you practice, the better you become, right? So anything that you would say, Judd, as we wrap up here? I told you we'd go over. Anything you'd say to anyone who feels called to become any sort of healing arts practitioner? Is there any advice or words of wisdom coming in at the moment that you would want to share?
The first thing I felt was you're called for a reason. That urge and that intensity and that passion, that fire, when it flips, you have to listen to it. Because throughout my own discovery, if you keep fighting this part of you, it keeps growing and growing and growing. And whatever else you're doing that's not in alignment becomes more uncomfortable. And all that discomfort is meant to kind of move you, just like Tony Robbins said, right? We're not supposed to sit in the stuff. We're not supposed to sit and be stuck. We're supposed to create momentum. And so I would say, allow that fire to guide you. You don't have to know how it's all going to turn out. I didn't know how it was going to all turn out. It was very different, and it's very different today than it will be the next 4, 5 months to 3 years. But as long as I can listen right now and go with it, like we're talking about with the heart, we're always going to be guided in the best direction. And we don't always have to know, and I didn't always know exactly where I was being led or how this would evolve, but I'm excited the way it evolved today. I'm excited of all the things and all the work that got me into this moment. So there's a lot of people that learn Reiki and all these types of modalities. One thing I will say, use those tools right away and also hold space for you in this growth. And opportunities are boundless, and they abound everywhere. And I know there's a lot of fear, and I felt this briefly, only briefly, that how am I going to do this? How am I going to make money doing this? And I guarantee you, when I listened, I made more money than I've ever made, quickly. And so there is financial abundance in this work because God's hands are in all of it, right? We are being guided. So listen to that sometimes subtle voice that turns into a fire, and just see where it guides you and directs you.
Yes, that's it right there. It's that alignment piece where when you surrender and you're shown the way and you say yes, you will be guided to that abundance. I love that. Thank you so much, Judd. This is so powerful. You're profound. You're amazing. And I really thank you for showing up in the world as you have and just as you have today. So thank you so much.
For having me on.
Yeah. So anyone who feels called to this work, you can call, you can text Sweeha. We have admissions coaches who are practitioners themselves who can hold space, hear your story, and then help align you towards the right path to be able to serve others in a loving and profitable way for the greatest good, including you. All right. Well, thank you, brother. I honor you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Be well. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.